Hello and welcome to Tax Reimagined, a journey to tax innovation interview. I'm very happy to have today in the studio our EMA tax leader for technology, Stuart Tait. Welcome, Stuart.
Thanks very much, Inga. Great to be here.
It was a very long day. We had a nice event with clients, tax authorities. We discussed a lot around Tax Reimagined. But what is Tax Reimagined?
So quite a common question. When I think about the modern tax function today, they're facing all sorts of different pressures. Externally, they've got an increase in the number of compliance obligations they face. They have tax authorities increasingly digitizing. Internally, they probably have cost pressure and pressure to achieve a stable, effective tax rate in a multinational enterprise in the face of changing legislation. So they've got a huge amount that they need to deliver on. To me, Tax Reimagined is a holistic solution to that problem, accepting that every multinational organization will have a different response to those diffuse challenges. So Tax Reimagined is how do we take an approach that looks at people, process, and technology, including sourcing models and tax strategy, and solve those challenges for an organization in a holistic way.
Right, and now that you were explaining, I remember the wheel that we were showing at the event with the model. And when we are talking about the reimagined and the journey, obviously in this journey we need technology, and there are so many ideas around what technology companies need. And what do you see typically happening in order for a company to choose the right technology partner?
I think the key thing is that actually there'll always be a constant evolution in the technology that's available. We've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, in 2021, no one was talking about generative AI. Now it's all that anyone's talking about. So technology is advancing so rapidly that I think focusing on any one technology solution as being the silver bullet for all of your issues is never going to be successful. To me, where a tax leader should be focused is on understanding their data, where it's generated in the organization, how it flows through, any deficiencies in that data, and how it needs to be captured, and then working on bringing that together in as consistent and standardized way as possible across their organization, ideally in a single location. And what that's going to enable them to do is, as technology constantly evolves, they'll be able to work with a multitude of different providers, but they'll be able to attach that to their own information, and they'll be confident in the quality of the data that's flowing into those technology solutions. And then they can be really nimble and respond to the changing demands. I often think about e-invoicing as a good example, which I know is a hot topic in Romania, but also in the CE region. The requirements are changing and evolving all of the time, often at very short notice. That often means a change of technology provider to adapt to all the different markets and obligations you might have. The organizations that I see navigate that challenge the most successfully are the ones that have really invested in building that solid foundation of data, because when you've got that solid foundation, you can move really quickly to respond, confident that you'll be putting the right information into the tools, because they're all only as good as the data that you feed. So actually, when I think about working with a technology partner, I think about starting from looking for a data management partner, a partner who's going to enable you to centralize your information, to sanitize it, to clean it, ideally to pass that clean information back into your own environment, because as tax authorities ask for more and more data, more and more quickly, it's increasingly important that your data is right at source in your ERP. So if your partner is not helping you to cleanse the data in your own environment, they're probably not the right compliance partner for you.
Interesting example you picked on e-invoicing, because while being here in Romania, there is literally no Romanian company that is listening to this interview that didn't have a question around e-invoicing or the technology or the right steps to making this happen, as you mentioned, very well from the beginning with the right data sets and so on. And I think another important point I heard you say is about the preparatory work and the fact there is no global solution, because many that operate in multiple jurisdictions, they want one single solution, but the legislation is different. And therefore, it's not only about the technology, but it's also about the tax partner that you can bring to validate the technology and the processes and what is behind that entry point data.
Absolutely. So that's an area where, again, you see the kind of key ingredients coming together that you see for any tax technology solution. The data is critically important, and that's the fuel for whatever solution you choose to implement. The technology itself will be very important to make sure that you're compliant in your key jurisdictions. But even more important is the knowledge, the content that you need. What templates, what formats do you need in the different markets? How are you confident that your tool or suite of tools are compliant? And I think that's where KPMG can be a great partner for an organization, because we have that global reach, that global view. We can help organizations to ensure that their technology starts out and then remains compliant as the journey continues to evolve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And talking about the journey, I recall now from what the representative of the tax authorities mentioned earlier regarding the Romanian strategy for digitalization of the tax office. And he also mentioned the adoption of AI. And it is not a secret that they are looking into this technology. So how do you see companies reacting to this AI hype? Because 6-7 years ago, everybody was talking robots. And now it's like AI in every presentation. If there is no AI in the presentation, then something is missing. So how do you see companies, because you have this EMA role, how do you see them preparing for this AI revolution?
So I think it's interesting that you started that with talking about the tax authorities, because I think that's a real challenge for a lot of multinationals. Even expanding beyond EMEA, you see organizations that are trying to navigate, Hungary, where you might be submitting data 3-4 times a day to the authorities, as close to real time as we really see almost anywhere. And then they might be operating in some of the markets in Asia Pacific, where you still file a paper tax return and probably actually pay your taxes via a check. So how do you develop a data and technology strategy that covers those two extremes? And that's driven by the appetite of the authorities for digitizing themselves and for experimenting with tools like AI. So I think that is a real challenge for a lot of tax leaders. What I think leaders in tax functions should be focused on today, when it comes to AI, I think, to me, it probably comes down to three things. One of them is access. So you have to identify a safe and secure way to get access to AI tools to as many of your people as possible. The best ideas, the best agents, the best personas aren't just going to come from the top of the organization. They're going to come from the juniors in your team who are actually doing the work day in, day out. So the more people you have on these tools, the better your use cases will be, the more effective your use of AI will be, the smoother your implementation will be. So every tax leader needs to be thinking about a secure environment like our digital gateway solution to give their people access to this amazing new technology. The second, and it comes back to your point around partnerships, generative AI is only as good as the content that you feed into it. So as a tax leader, where are you going to source the tax technical content that you need so that when your people start to experiment, start to build personas, where are they going to get a robust source of the right tax technical information that allows them to innovate and develop those personas further and further? So I think all tax leaders need to be thinking about broad access. They need to be thinking about their content partnerships, especially. And then finally, what they need to be thinking about is how do they integrate into the wider ecosystem of their organization. So should they be looking for a third-party tool? Is something already being built out in their environment that would allow them to access this type of tooling? Are there any regulatory restrictions on what they can use because of the nature of their business? So I think those three things, if you can navigate those as a tax leader, how to get access to as many people as possible, how to get really high quality content into the tools to allow them to innovate safely, and then how to align with your wider organization so that you're moving at pace as a tax function, but you're also not going beyond the bounds of what's acceptable within your environment, are the three key questions. If you can answer those, then you're probably on the way to having a really successful rollout of AI within your tax function.
I very much enjoyed your 3 steps approach to a very big problem. And I also appreciated how today we didn't say too much, we showed. because it's easier for people to understand the use of AI when they see a good use case.
Yeah.
We managed to show 6 or 7 use cases today, and live demos went well. So after you had this sense of what the Romanian companies like and want, how do you see the future for the region and for Romania, for the technology-driven tax processes, and to conclude, and tax reimagined processes?
So, I mean, from what I saw today, from what I heard from our clients in the region, what I heard from the tax authority is that there is clearly this appetite for digitization from the authority. You can see that in the e-invoicing mandates and in some of the other regulation that's being put forward. So I think having that progressive attitude from the authority is going to be a major catalyst for Romanian organizations to digitize their processes. So I think they've got a great opportunity to automate further, to be more data driven, to move from a retrospective form-based compliance model to a future-looking compliance by design baked into the ERP system model, because the authority are open to that type of journey. And I think there's a great history of really innovative technology companies coming out of Romania. So hopefully, if we can bring together that ability to digitize the overall system with the kind of innovation that we're already seeing in the Romanian market, I think there's no reason why Romania and the broader CEE region couldn't be a leader in digitized tax. And I think we're already starting to see that. I mentioned Hungary as a kind of a standout example of real-time filing going much further and faster than other authorities are doing. If we continue to see that pace of innovation and adoption of technology, I think the rest of the world will be looking to see how future tax systems might evolve.
Stuart, thank you so much for sharing your insights, both globally but also locally. And I like that they are so much aligned with our values, together for better. Please don't feel alone in this journey of innovation, of tax reimagining. And I hope that watching this interview, everybody picked some good things for them to act, because I feel the sense of urgency.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, Inga.